The book costs $4, a water-damaged paperback from an estate sale in Connecticut. Printed in 1961, written by a man whose name you have never heard and probably never will. His descendants still hold land in 4 states, and they are doing just fine. You almost walk past it. The spine is cracked, the cover stained with something like old coffee. The house this came from no longer belongs to the family whose name is stamped on the inside cover. The price is a joke, and you have a long flight ahead. So you pay and you go. Somewhere over the Midwest. 3 chapters in, you stop and read the same paragraph twice. It isn't a revelation. It's the most obvious financial behavior you have ever read. Written by a man who never sold a course, never made a thumbnail, never had a brand. He just called it the way his family did things, going back 4 generations. You have been doing the opposite of every single thing in this book for 14 years. You close it. You look out the window, clouds below you, and something has quietly shifted. Let's be frank. Old money does not perform wealth. That is the entire thesis. The entire economic machine that profits from your behavior is built on you not understanding that. The people you see talking about wealth, the creators, the conference speakers, they are not old money. Old money is the family you have never heard of, on a block you have never visited. The car that is 10 years old and immaculate, maintained, not replaced, never announced. The portfolio that hasn't been touched since 2011, doing fine. Never supposed to be exciting. You have been taught to optimize, to hustle, to track every metric and pivot with every cycle. The system doesn't just tolerate that behavior, it requires it. Your motion is the machine's revenue. Here's where it turns. These rules are from 1961 and they still work in 2026. Not because nothing has changed, but because the rules were never about the instruments. They were about behavior, specifically about the person holding the instrument and what that person does. And that person, structurally, has not changed in 60 years, has not changed at all. The real question is, what does your life look like in dollars? 10 years from now, what does it look like in 20 years if you apply these behaviors starting this year? Run it with me, because this gets specific. And specific is where the money actually lives. The first old money rule is not about stocks, not about cryptocurrency, not about any platform, not about any instrument that is only a number on a screen and can go to 0 in a week. The first rule is about one thing, and that one thing is permanence. What holds without you. Old money owned land, not to flip it, not to develop it, but to hold it and pass it on. They owned businesses that existed before they were born and would exist long after they died. They owned things that had utility whether or not the market agreed with them this quarter. The honest number? U.S. equities have returned roughly 7% annually, in real terms, over 100 years. Productive land in major corridors has appreciated 4 to 6% yearly, and you cannot lose it in a call. You cannot lose the land because an algorithm decided it was having a bad week. Permanence is the point. Most of what you own right now, the car, the furniture, the electronics, depreciates. It loses value the moment you take it home. Old money called this consumption. New money calls it lifestyle. The question is not how much you make. It is how much of what you own holds value on its own. Write down what you own. Not your stuff, not your subscriptions, but what will be worth more in 10 years. Frank's truth number 1. Wealth is not what the balance shows. Wealth is what holds when the balance disappears. Old money does not drive the newest car. That is new money behavior. Through and through. The behavior of someone who just arrived and needs the parking lot to know it before they get inside. The average new car payment in the United States in 2025 was $734 a month. 68% of Americans are financing their vehicle right now. Most on a 60-month term. Most traded in before it's paid off, upside down, rolling negative equity into the next payment. Run it yourself, $734 a month. Invested at a 7% average annual return. Over 20 years. That is $457,000. Not in a hedge fund, not in crypto, in a plain, low-cost, index fund. One you could open in 20 minutes on your phone and never need to actively touch again. You are not buying a car. You are buying someone else's retirement with your own name on the invoice. Old money understood this not as a deprivation, but as a structural preference, a quiet architectural choice. Every dollar spent signaling arrival is a dollar that cannot compound. You cannot do both at once. You cannot look rich and become rich simultaneously. Not on a median income. Not without the math. Here's where it turns. The families in that $4 book did not live meagerly. They lived appropriately. Relative to their actual position, not their aspirational one. And never ahead of the money. You have been told to spend like the person you want to become. Old money says the opposite. Save like who you already are and become who you want to be by not losing the ground. The difference between those two instructions, same income, 20 years, no luck required, is roughly $400,000. Frank's truth number 2. Quiet money is older money. The loudest thing in the room is almost always the most borrowed. Old money does not discuss salary at the dinner table, does not post net worth, does not broadcast, doesn't say what they paid for the house, what the renovation cost, or what the bonus came in at. This is not arrogance, it is strategy and protection. Two things that look identical from the outside. When you broadcast your income, you tell every salesperson in your life exactly what you can be separated from. You become a target with a number attached to your name, and you handed them the number. You also lock yourself into performing that number. The car, the restaurant, the neighborhood that matches the signal. A performance that requires ongoing expenditure to maintain the version of yourself you've publicly announced. The honest number? A behavioral finance study tracking households over 8 years produced one consistent finding. People who publicly disclosed income and lifestyle markers on social media carried 27% more consumer debt. Not because they earned less, because they performed more. And the announcement became the ongoing obligation. Old money's rule is simple. Your number is private. Not because you're ashamed of it, but because it is yours. Information is leverage, and leverage should not be handed freely to people whose job is to extract it. Here's where it turns. Old money families taught their children that financial privacy was a form of respect. Respect for the money itself, for themselves, and for the people at the table who didn't have it. Talking about it was considered poor form, not because it was forbidden, but because it was unnecessary. The money was doing what the money does, compounding, quietly, in accounts nobody was discussing at dinner. You can start this today. Nothing changes in your accounts, but everything changes in how they are protected. Frank's truth number 3. The quieter your money, the harder it is to reach, and the longer it compounds undisturbed. The most underrated old money behavior is not a financial instrument. It isn't even strictly a financial act. It is a document, a letter, a piece of paper that turns what you have built into something that survives you. Old money thinks in 20-year windows, not this quarter, not this year, but who holds this after me? You probably have a 401k. You may have a brokerage account, maybe some savings you've meant to move. What you almost certainly don't have is a letter. A written document someone you love could actually follow. A document they could open if you were no longer here to explain what you built and where it is. The estate sale in Connecticut. The $4 book. The man who wrote it had annotated his own copy. Not with financial tips, not with stock picks, with names, account numbers, and one clear instruction per page. And on the last annotated page, in handwriting that had seen 40 years of the same decisions, one line. He wrote, "This was not built quickly, and it will not be lost quickly. If you are careful." Here's where it turns. Most first-generation wealth is lost not through bad investments, but through lack of documentation. The estate is contested, the accounts are frozen, decisions are made by grief and urgency instead of structure. Old money gave their children a structure before they gave them money. The structure always came first. Because without the structure, the money is just a number that grief, probate, and taxes make smaller. You can write that letter this week. One page. What you have, where it is, who to call. That letter is worth more than any single financial decision you will make this year, because it ensures the others survive you. Frank's truth number 4. The richest thing you can leave someone is not capital. It is clarity. Now let's run the math on what this actually looks like. In a real life. In real numbers. You earn $68,000 a year, below the U.S. median household income. But we are being conservative here. You are building this alone, on individual income. And that is completely valid. The math works either way. You are paying $840 a month in rent. You have a car payment sitting at $490. You have a credit card with a $3,200 balance you've been intending to clear for 18 months. Nothing about this profile is shameful. Nothing about it is reckless. This is the median American life. The machine was designed precisely around this profile. It is not accidental that this is where most people are. Path A. You change nothing. You earn modest raises. Keep the car, the card, the same habits. In 10 years, at median savings rates for this income bracket, your net assets land between $22,000 and $45,000. That is the honest number. Not a criticism, not a character judgment, just the math on the current structure. Path B. You apply 3 old money behaviors, just 3, starting this year. No other changes. You pay off the credit card in 11 months by cutting the dining out habit. That's the only change. You drive the paid-off car 4 more years instead of trading up. The loan disappears. The money doesn't. You move $550 a month into a low-cost index fund, the S&P 500, and you do not look at it. Not once a month. Once a year, on a Tuesday in January, and then you close the app. 10 years at 7% on $550 a month? $96,000. On the same $68,000 income, same paycheck. I want you to sit with that. $22,000 to $45,000 versus $96,000. Same paycheck, different structure. The gap, $51,000 to $74,000, is not luck, not a raise, not a market timing event. It is a behavior gap, and behavior gaps are the only gaps you can close without anyone's permission. I've sat across from people who found this door at 43 instead of 28. The math still works at 43, but the 15-year cost of not knowing, the compound interest on behaviors you didn't change, is real. That cost lands in the hundreds of thousands, not because of bad luck, but because of structure that was never installed. Run it yourself. Take the single largest thing you spend each month to signal your life is going well. Add it up. Compound it at 7% for 15 years. That number is what old money already knows. It's what the $4 book is full of. The same 15 behaviors. Written in a quiet hand on every page. Frank's truth number 5. It's almost never an income gap. It's a behavior gap. And behavior can be changed. Here's what the machine does not want you to figure out. Not as a conspiracy, as a structure. The modern economy runs on the delta between what you earn and what you spend. That delta is someone's revenue. Banks profit from the spread between your deposit rate and your loan rate. It's the same spread every time. Dealerships profit from your payment tolerance. Social platforms profit from your need to perform what you have. None of these systems are malicious. They are simply optimized, ruthlessly and precisely, for extraction. Every time you configure a car by monthly payment, the machine is working. Every time you finance something that could have waited, every time you post a number, the machine routes that signal to someone who sells something you don't need. You were not taught how to opt out of this. That is not an accident. It is by design. Here's where it turns. Old money did not beat the machine by being smarter or having better information. They didn't have access to instruments you don't have. They beat it by being relentlessly, consistently boring. By making the same 15 decisions so many times that the decisions stopped feeling like decisions. They became structure. The machine has nothing to extract from boring. It cannot profit from the person who simply doesn't move. The person who drives the same paid-off car for 8 years and doesn't announce it to anyone. The person who holds the same index fund without touching it and never posts about what it's worth. The $4 book has no stock tip in it, no life hack, no arbitrage, no shortcut. It has 15 behaviors repeated in different language on every page, by families whose names you will never read, because they were too busy being boring to care about being seen. And that is the entire edge. Frank's truth number 6. The machine is not your enemy. Inconsistency is. Every break in structure is what it profits from. You're still holding the book. The $4 paperback. Water damaged. Margins full of someone else's handwriting. That handwriting belongs to a man who has been gone for 30 years, but his grandchildren are fine. Who are, by every quiet measure available, fine, not famous, not on any list, not seen. They held, they compounded, they wrote the letter, and then they handed it off. And it held. What you've been watching today is not a secret. It's not a cheat code. It has no mystery. It is the default posture of people who never had to learn it because it was the air they grew up breathing. But you can build a structure that functions exactly the same way, and the only cost is the performance. The performance of arriving, of spending ahead of where you are to announce where you're trying to go. That performance has been quietly costing you, compounded over a decade, more than you would ever consciously agree to spend. Wealth is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It does not post. It does not need the room to know. It compounds. Quietly. In accounts nobody talks about. Through decisions nobody applauds. At a rate that only becomes visible later. When the gap has grown too wide to explain away, and the quiet ones have become untouchable. The old money rule, at its core, is this. Make the boring decision correctly, consistently, for long enough. Long enough that it becomes the only decision you know how to make. Not discipline, just structure. You weren't born into that family. You didn't grow up breathing that air. Neither did most people who have it now. But you can build the structure they inherited, 1 year at a time. One boring decision at a time. The math doesn't care when you start. It doesn't care what year it is. The next move is still yours. If nobody ever gave you the Frank version of this, that is what this channel is here for. If it landed, you know what to do. The next video is already there when you're ready.